you guys, welcome back to my channel. My name is Courtney. Today I've got 20 summer DIYs for you. Thank you to SureBonder for sponsoring today's video. Now let's get into it. Moving into this first DIY, you're going to want to pick up a wood round from your local hardware store. This one came from Home Depot. It's the 18-inch circle, and it cost me a little over $6. I simply just cut it in half and then gave it a good sanding. For this first one, I'm going to use some of this Maze Waverly chalk paint, and what I'm going to do is I found a picture of a lemon slice, and I'm just going to roughly sketch out the design on my wood round and then go ahead and start painting it yellow. Once the yellow was painted, I went ahead and took some white chalk paint and I painted in between the yellow segments as well as a half circle at the top, and then I left about 3/4 of an inch around the very top of the half round here so that I could paint it a little bit of a darker yellow for the rind. For the yellow rind, I'm taking some of the Maze Waverly chalk paint and I'm going to mix in a little bit of the mustard Waverly chalk paint just to get a little bit of a darker yellow, and I'm going to go ahead and paint that top part of my lemon slice. Now, the green mat I'm working on, that's actually from SureBonder. It is a silicone mat. If you've never worked on a silicone mat before, they are brilliant. I love working on silicone mats because the paint wipes off. If the hot glue touches it, it doesn't matter. It keeps your surface protected. So did want to point that out, that it's definitely something you should add to your arsenal of crafting supplies if you don't have one. Now, taking my fan brush and some of the Sunny Day yellow paint by Apple Barrel from Walmart, I'm just going to go in and go ahead and brush each of these little yellow segments to give it a little bit of texture and depth. The last step before I go ahead and add my handles is to go ahead and seal this tray really good, and I'm just using a liquid wax sealer here and just painting it all over and letting it dry. Then taking some handles that I picked up from Hobby Lobby, I'm just going to directly screw them in to the sides, and then I did go in with a little bit of a kind of brownish paint just to kind of cover up those bright silver screws, and then this lemon tray is all finished. Now we've got 1/2 of a wood round that we need to do something with. Now I'm going to make a watermelon slice, but you could do an orange slice, you could do a lime slice, whatever you would like to do. Now for the rind on my watermelon, I'm using a thicker brush and I'm just going to freehand this, and I'm using some of the Moss Waverly chalk paint, and I'm just going to swoop it around all the way on the end portion of this wood round to where it looks like this. Then my next stripe is going to be a little bit thinner, and I'm using some of the Celery Waverly chalk paint, and then I'm going to go a little bit thinner and go ahead and paint a white stripe. Once the white is painted, I'm going to fill in the red portion with the Crimson Waverly chalk paint, and then I'm going to go ahead and sketch out my little black seeds and then fill them in with some of the black chalk paint. Before I attach the handles, my last step on this slice here is to take some of the Fern Waverly chalk paint, and I'm spacing them out, but I'm just painting stripes all along the edge, and then in between the fern stripes, I'm going to go back in with some of that Celery Waverly chalk paint. Now, these wood rounds are awesome ways to make gifts. These trays cost less than $5. You could amp it up and make an awesome housewarming or a hostess gift, or even just a gift for someone. Add an actual watermelon, maybe some cute watermelon plates and napkins. Lots of options there. And of course, you can leave the wood round whole. I do that often, and make wedding gifts, make Lazy Susans. Again, I will link a video down below of a Lazy Susan that I made for fall. So such a versatile gift and really, really cheap. This Dollar Tree DIY is using a tag I had left over from Christmas time. The first thing I'm going to do is take some brown cream wax and just brush it all over the tag. Once that's done and it's completely dry, I just cut out a stencil on my Cricut, and I am just going to set this down on top of my little tag and then go in and stencil on my different colors of paint using white, yellow, and green. I ended up painting 3 coats of the yellow and green paint on my tag. Once that was done and all dry, I took a washer and went ahead and painted it with that same yellow. And then taking my detail tip Surebonder glue gun, which is by far my favorite glue gun. I absolutely love this thing. It puts just the right amount of glue on projects. I'm going to glue this down to where the circle is on the tag. And then my last step is to go ahead and attach a piece of twine. Moving into this next Dollar Tree DIY, I found this printable on Pinterest. I will definitely link it down below if I can still find it, as well as anything else I've talked about. Always check that description box, and if I miss one, just send me a message and I'll make sure to get it to you. I'm going to cut this out so that it will fit the bucket that I have picked up from Dollar Tree. So the first thing I wanted to do was kind of embellish the bucket a little bit. So I just took some white rope that I had and hot glued that to the top. And then I took some brown cording that I had that was from a banner that I picked up a long time ago, and went ahead and also hot glued that to the top. I felt like the white and brown kind of gave off the whole s'mores vibe. And then the last step was just to attach my printable, and to do that I'm just going to use some of the Gorilla Glue adhesive spray. Love this stuff, and I'm just going to spray it to the bucket and attach my paper. And then the last step is you just put in the bucket what you want: graham crackers, marshmallows, Hershey's bars. It's such an easy little thing to carry. It looks super cute. You can put skewers in there. So fun and so easy. You can't have summer without some type of ice cream. So here I found a free template printable for some popsicles and ice cream cones. And I have 3 different colors of felt. I've got a tan color for the cone and the popsicle stick, as well as a soft pink and a mint green. So the first thing I was going to do is just go ahead and cut out my template, and then cut out the different pieces that I need to put my little ice cream and popsicles together. Once that was done, I wanted to embellish the cone as well as the popsicle stick. So I just took some kind of light brown thread and did a running stitch, which just means up and then down and then up and then down, and you just keep going like that to give it a little bit of dimension. All right, now there are 3 ways to put this together. Now for the pink one, I went ahead and put the 2 pieces together, and I also hand stitched those using a running stitch. And then I'm gonna take some stuffing and stuff it up in there. So like I said, you can hand stitch, okay? Now I had a little gap there, didn't do the best job. If you have someone who can sew, like my daughter Bailey, she went in and stitched a couple for me, and that was very helpful. Now, if you don't have a sewing machine, your other option is Surebonder has fabric hot glue, which it works fantastic. You can also use that to go ahead and glue your pieces together. So once all my pieces were done, this is how they turned out. And to get them on to my twine, I needed to make like a little place where on the back that I could thread the twine through. So to do that, all I did was take a couple of pieces of the felt and I just cut little rectangles. And then I hot glued those to the back of my ice cream cones using some of that fabric hot glue. And I made sure to just glue at the top and glue at the bottom of the rectangle. And then that way I could just thread my little ice creams and popsicles through. And then that's it. This is all finished. All right, now I've got sprinkles on the brain. So for this one, you're going to grab a jar and you're going to paint the entire thing a tan color. I just used the hazelnut Waverly chalk paint and I ended up giving this 2 good coats of paint. Once that was dry, then on the top portion, I just took a kind of a soft mint green, and you're going to want to paint the top of the mason jar to make it look like dripping ice cream. So I kind of started just by filling in, and then I went back and kind of, you know, dripped a little bit here. You don't want it to be super smooth. Again, you want it to look like the ice cream is dripping over the mason jar. Colored glue sticks. Okay, if you've been with me for a while, you guys know I love colored glue sticks. I use tons of them at Christmas time, and this is such a fun project to use these. Surebonder has tons of colors. They also have glow-in-the-dark glue sticks. So here I get asked a lot about, okay, how do you handle the glue sticks so you don't waste colors? Well, I cut them in half. If I don't need that much of the color, I cut them in half. I don't have any issues feeding them in there. Now there is a little bit of overlap when the colors are switching. And what you can do with that extra glue is squeeze it into silicone molds. Squeeze it into the molds, and then you can add a thumbtack and make yourself some push pins, or you can just put it into the mold, and then if you have a glue pot, save it and then use that to work with florals. You can also, if you know in the future you may want some 3D letters, go ahead and use that extra glue to make some letters. So there are definite ways to use the glue without just wasting it and squirting it out. So as you can see here, all I'm doing is going in with all these fun colors, making the sprinkles. I'm just going to trim off the little bit of glue string that is there, which was no big deal. And that's it. I mean, I'm telling you, these are the perfect little sprinkles, and it's really fun to make. Definitely check out color glue sticks if you've never worked with them, because it's so fun. For this Dollar Tree DIY, I had one of these spinny signs. So the first thing I'm going to do is go ahead and take off the twine and then give the sign a good coat of white paint. Once that was done, I took some Dollar Tree stickers, and on the little spinny thing on one side I put open, and on the other side I put closed. Then taking more Dollar Tree stickers, these are kind of 3D and raised up a little bit, but they're gold and white and don't really go with the vibe of my sign. I took some Waverly Crimson chalk paint and painted out the stickers to say soda fountain. Once that was finished, I wanted to add a yellow arrow to my sign, which I'm going to kind of turn in to give the illusion of like a blinking light. And I painted it yellow. And then at the bottom, I wanted to pull in that teal color and some pink. And again, I painted that with the teal and then a little bit of pink and added some more Dollar Tree stickers to say shakes and malts. My last little touch here to finish off this sign was just to put in some white dots on the arrow to give the illusion, like I said, of kind of a light bulbs blinking. And that's it. I've made a little soda fountain sign. Now, I wanted this to stand up. And to get it to stand up, I was like, you know what, I'm going to use one of those paper towel Dollar Tree holders that I'm always like, what can I make out of this? I mean, most recently I made a lipstick holder out of it, if you caught that on Instagram or TikTok. But this is the only second time I've ever used one of these Dollar Tree paper towel holders. I always see them and I'm like, what can I do with this? And so I just attached the sign to that, which made it perfect to be able to stand up. And when I decorate my hutch, I will definitely post pictures of it, because the whole thing is going to be ice cream, soda shop, 50s, all kinds of fun vibes. And I can't wait to show you guys what it looks like once I get it decorated. Now for this last ice cream themed DIY, I have a tea towel here that I was lucky and got a 4-pack on clearance for $2 from Marshall's, and I've got my fabric markers. So my original plan was to take this little ice cream mirror that I found at Dollar Tree and use it as a template and go ahead and just fill in the ice cream cone with the fabric markers, which is what I did. After I did that, I still felt like it was, I don't know, kind of flat looking. So I ended up taking my Arteza fabric paint and painting over where I had used the fabric marker. And then I just left it like this. Now you could add words to it. You could have added ice cream, you scream, we all scream for ice cream, lots of options, or you could have just done all kinds of little drawings with the fabric markers, but that's it. This is a very simple tea towel that I'm going to throw up on my, that sounds terrible. I'm going to put on my hutch when I decorate it for summertime. Grab a mason jar for this next DIY. So to start, you're going to take some masking tape and go ahead and tape off the bottom of the jar. I went about 1 inch from the bottom of the mason jar and then just wrap the tape all the way around. Once that was secure, I took some of the Moss Waverly chalk paint and I painted the base of the mason jar. When it was completely dry, I went ahead and taped off the next stripe, and this one was going to be a little bit thinner, and I used the celery colored Waverly chalk paint. Once the 2 shades of green were all dry, I took some more painter's tape and I went ahead and painted those off so that they were protected. And then I took some of the crimson colored Waverly chalk paint and I painted the rest of the mason jar and let it dry really, really good. When the red was dry, I took a white paint marker and drew a very thin white line right there on the top of the celery. I just freehanded it and went all the way around my mason jar. And then for the seeds, I went ahead and made it simple and just grabbed a black Sharpie marker and went through and added all my seeds to the jar. Then I took some sealer. This is just the Rust-Oleum matte sealer, and I sealed the entire jar and let it dry really, really good. And my last step was just to tie a very simple twine bow to the top, and that's it. This makes a great straw holder, utensil holder. You could drop a candle, a votive candle in there. Lots of options, but a great little summer piece. This next DIY is perfect for summer entertaining. So you're going to want to start with a 1x4, and if you don't have a saw, you can ask them to do this for you at the hardware store, but you want to end up with 4 pieces that are about 5.5 inches long. I also had a piece of scrap wood that I'm going to put as a base, but I don't really know that it's necessary. I'm going to go ahead and paint all of these pieces of wood with some white paint. Once that's dry, I'm going to take one of the pieces that's going to be part of my little box I'm making and mark the center. Then taking a Sharpie marker lid, I'm going to trace around the outside of the lid, because what we're doing here is we're going to make a hole and a place for our Sharpie marker to rest. Because how many times have you put out those solo cups and the Sharpie marker just disappears? It goes wherever it wants to go and never ends up next to the solo cups. So once I get that marked, I'm going to use my Forstner bit and go ahead and drill down a hole. Once my hole was drilled, I just used my Cricut Joy to go ahead and make the little sticker for the front. It just is going to say, mark your cup and drink up. And I'm just going to apply that to the front of the box, and then I'm ready to assemble it. Now, the reason why I said it didn't necessarily need a base is just because if you're not going to be picking it up and constantly moving it, the whole point of it is just to house your solo cups and to keep that Sharpie marker with the solo cups. Now, you could drill a hole on each piece of wood, so you essentially have 4 Sharpie markers coming off of it. Up to you. Now, what I'm going to use here is some of the Surebonder wood hot glue. I absolutely love that stuff. It's a great quick alternative to actually using wood glue, and I'm just going to glue all of this together, and then the only thing that is missing is my solo cups and my Sharpie marker. This next Dollar Tree DIY will take you less than 5 minutes to do. I found online some printable dictionary pages. They had one for each letter. I picked the L page and then I put it in Canva and added some lemons as well as the lemon text, trimmed it down, and then stuck it in a Dollar Tree frame. I popped out the glass. That's it. Super easy, but you could do so many variations to this. You could find the C page, the V page, and do like chocolate vanilla, the S page for swimming, L for limes, O for oranges. Tons and tons of options for the summertime. This Dollar Tree DIY, you need to pick up one of their canvases and you want to go ahead and break this down until you are left with the frame. So I took everything off, I gave it a light sanding, and then I grabbed some large popsicle sticks and put them underneath the frame and went ahead and measured so that I could cut these down to size so that it will fit. Then I'm going to go ahead and take another popsicle stick and glue these popsicle sticks together. I am using, if you didn't know, SureBonder has some construction grade hot glue. They've got a 1 minute and a 3 minute, and it really is super sturdy. I use it all the time. I love the 1 minute one and the 3 minute one for bigger projects, but I'm just going to glue these together and then give them all a good coat of white paint. Now taking some brown wax, I'm going to go ahead and paint the frame. Don't mind my finger here. I had stabbed my finger with those little sharp birdie scissors you can see in the top right hand corner. Those things are so sharp on the tip, like super duper sharp, and I totally jabbed it into my finger. So anyway, you're going to go ahead and paint this, and then you want to make sure it's dried really, really good, and then you're just going to hot glue it back down to your white painted popsicle sticks. I am now ready to go ahead and add my wooden letters. Now, Dollar Tree has wooden letters, so I tried that first and laid them out, and they did fit, but I wasn't quite liking the style of the letter, and so I had some letters in my stash that came from Hobby Lobby, except I didn't actually have an N. So I took a lowercase u to make the end, and then once I got that, I was ready to go ahead and color these in. Now, I didn't paint them with black paint. I just took one of my Arteza black markers and just did a real quick little coloring in, and it worked great. Now I was ready to make my little bee, so I took some yellow polymer clay and I shaped a little body as well as a little yellow ball for the head and stuck those together. I went ahead and used my black marker to make the stripes and color in the head, and I also ended up adding a little stinger. Now for the wings, I used hot glue, and oh my gosh, they look so realistic. However, I made the big mistake of putting it on wax paper. Don't do that. Just make your wings directly onto your silicone mat, because then you can just peel it right off. And then I just hot glued the wings to it. And then the last thing, which I didn't add, was some antennae. I thought I had some real thin black wire that I was going to poke in there and kind of curl the ends, but I didn't. And then I never got more. So you could definitely add that if you wanted to. I didn't, but I still love how the sign turned out. I think it's super, super cute. Summertime makes me think of outdoors and barbecue and games. So here I've got some 4x4s that I have cut down to 4-inch cubes and sanded and rounded the corners a little bit. And then this is a template that I found online from Pinterest. And what I'm going to do is show you two ways you can do this. So after you've cut out your different little sides of the dice, I'm putting it on one side, and then I'm taking just a little thumbtack and I'm just marking the center of these little dots. And what that will allow me to do is it'll give me some little indentions in my dice, and I can take my drill that has my Forstner bit attached to it, and I can drill into the dice, and it's going to leave a little circle kind of indention in it, just like real dice have. The other option is just to take your template piece and pencil on the back and fill it in. This is kind of old school way here, and then take that and trace your little circles on the side of your dice. And then once you've traced those on there, you can go in and just stamp your paint. So once I went ahead in with my drill and drilled all my little sides, I did go in and use some wood filler and go ahead and fill in the little holes. And then once that was done and the wood filler was dry, I took my little stencil, I don't know what you want to call it, stencil sponge here, and it was the perfect size, and I just stamped black ink into each of the little holes, and I let that dry really well. The last thing I did was go ahead and seal it, and I just used some wipe-on poly, which is so easy. You just get a rag and you wipe it all over. I let it dry really, really good, and then I'm just housing it in a Dollar Tree bucket. We printed out a bunch of score sheets. I've got a little clipboard in there. You certainly could laminate the score sheets and throw in some dry erase markers as well. Totally up to you, but it's a super fun game that you can make and play during the summertime. Now, this next DIY, I'm going to call it a half DIY. So here you see the cup is already painted white. Well, it was originally bright orange. Dollar Tree, I did notice, has brought these same cups back this year. And if you're going with the whole ice cream theme, then this is a great little cup. All I did was cut out on my Cricut the word milkshake, and then you can use this to put some greenery in it if you want to, or if you like to make the faux whipped cream, you could add that to the top. I actually have a little topper that I'm excited to put on top of this, so I'm excited to pull my whole soda shop theme thing together. But again, super quick little DIY. This next DIY is a great little staple piece that is just that little extra thing that you may need for a 3-tier tray or somewhere on a shelf or on a stack of books. So here I've got a wood round. This came from Arteza, and I'm just painting the front of it with some white paint. I am going to go ahead and stick with that whole ice cream theme on this one, but again, you could do anything summer related. It'd be cute to do a beach ball. You could do fruit. So whatever, palm trees, a flamingo, whatever you want to do that's summer themed, you could paint on the front. And the next thing I'm going to do is go ahead and just take some beads and string them up. I always buy my wooden beads on Amazon, and I'm using 2 different sides of beads. And then on one end, I'm just going to go ahead and very quickly make a tassel by not cutting the twine, but just wrapping it around my hand and then tying it off, and then that way it's just attached and it's much, much easier. Then the other end of it is going to be tied to my wood round where I have sketched out an ice cream cone. Then taking some paint as well as my Arteza markers to kind of add some details to it, I'm just going to go ahead and color this in. But again, you could do any summer themed object, or whatever you want to do here to make this kind of a fun little piece that you can add anywhere in your decor. It's time to make a super cute little throw pillow that would be great to put on your patio or your porch. So I'm going to start with this Dollar Tree pizza pan, and I'm going to use it as a template to trace a circle on this red checkered fabric that I got from Hobby Lobby. Then taking my circle, my red checkered circle, and folding it in half, I'm just going to take a marker and mark about 2 inches off of the red fabric, and I'm going to go ahead and cut on the line that I drew with my fabric marker. Then once that is cut, I'm going to go in and cut that green fabric up against the watermelon slice, and what I essentially am making here is a rind to a watermelon. Once the green pieces were cut, I'm going to start with one of them and go ahead and hot glue it with some of the Surebonder fabric hot glue to the base of the watermelon, and then I'm going to do the same for the other side of the circle. Where the 2 pieces of green fabric meet, I'm just going to fold them into each other so that way it makes a nice clean seam there. And then I'm ready to go ahead and fold this in half, and then go ahead and start hot gluing these 2 pieces together, making sure to leave a little gap so that I can stuff it with some of my stuffing. After the pillow was stuffed, which by the way, I do use the pillow hack as stuffing, I grabbed some black stiff felt and just freehanded cutting 4 big seeds, and then I hot glued them with the fabric hot glue onto the pillow. I did close up the pillow also with the fabric hot glue, and then that's it. This pillow's finished. Now, if you're going to put this outside, I would recommend you spraying it with some of the fabric protectant that you can buy. That's what I usually use whenever I put something that's fabric outside, but there you go, a really cute little accent pillow. This next DIY, you're going to need a pitcher. Now, I picked up this one from Amazon. I really liked it because it came with a stir stick, as well as the centerpiece where you can freeze your ice to keep the drink cold. There are a lot of options that you can do for this, but I was actually making this for a friend who loves mimosas, so I'm going to make her a custom pitcher for it. And to do that, I'm just going to use my Cricut to cut out some permanent vinyl, and I'm going to start by cutting out orange juice with some orange slices with some orange vinyl, and then a little orange line, and then for the top I'm going to cut out the word champagne and some glittery vinyl, as well as just some little circles to make like bubbles, I guess. But you could do any combination. We love to drink orange juice and cranberry juice, so if I made this for myself, I would probably make that pitcher. Let me know a juice combination that you guys like, or a pitcher idea that you would make for this DIY. Now this Dollar Tree DIY is another quick and easy customizable DIY. They sell these bamboo wind chimes, and this is just a simple DIY that you can kind of spruce up to hang up in your backyard for summertime. You could do a really fun colored one, and what I decided to do was I just did a Houston Astros theme. So I used the Houston Astros colors, which were navy, white, and orange. I added a little star as well as an H to it, and that's it. I mean, this another very simple DIY, but definitely transform it. You could make a really bright colored one. You could do a rainbow one. You could do blues and greens to kind of represent the ocean. Lots of things. You could also add some extra things to it if you wanted to add some beads or some other noise makers to it. You could definitely make this a larger wind chime, but again, a super easy $1 thing that you can pick up from Dollar Tree and turn into a really cute outdoor decor piece. For this Dollar Tree DIY, you're going to want to grab yourself a candle. Now, I was lucky to find an orange, or actually it was tangerine scented candle, but you could just go based off of color if you'd like to. And I'm going to start just by tying some twine around the mouth of the candle, then taking some of the summer themed wooden stickers that they have. I'm going to take one of the little slices of fruit and go ahead and paint that white all the way. Then I'm going to take one of my Arteza markers, and originally when I was painting this, I was going to try to, do it all, and then I was like, forget it, I'm going to paint the whole thing white. So that's why I was like, I started to try to do it right, but then no. I painted the whole thing white, and then it was just much easier to go in with the marker and just get all of those little extra details. And then the last step is just to go ahead and hot glue this to the front of the candle, and that's it. It's like I said, you could pick up a yellow candle and do lemons. You could pick up a red one and do watermelons or strawberries. You could do a whole fruit salad of candles, whatever you want to do, but it's just an extra little thing that you could make to add to breakfast trays or your 3-tier tray, or even just a shelf. But it's a great little way to amp up those Dollar Tree candles. This next Dollar Tree DIY, we're going to bring some strawberries into the mix of all of our summer DIYs. So for this, I've got one of these mason jars left over from Christmas time, and I'm going to take off the twine and go ahead and remove some of the glitter just by using my Goo Gone trick, where I just spray it and then scrape it off. And then I'm going to give the mason jar a couple of coats of white paint. Next, I'm going to take some of this red and white polka dot fabric that I got from Hobby Lobby, and I'm just going to cut out an oval shaped piece of fabric that will kind of hang over the top of the mason jar. And by cutting it oval, it just makes it a little easier for it to fit on there. And then once I have that cut out, I'm just going to take my twine and go ahead and push it down around the fabric to get this secured. Then taking some red felt, I'm just going to freehand and cut a strawberry shape. And then I'm also going to take some green and go ahead and make the little leaves and just freehand that for the strawberry. And I'm going to use some hot glue to attach the leaves to the top of the strawberry. Then taking some stamps and some black ink, I'm just going to stamp out the word Fresh Jam. These stamps came from Tuesday morning. Once that's all stamped out, I'm going to go ahead and hot glue down my strawberry. I didn't glue it down yet just because I wanted to make sure that the letters went where I needed them to go. And then to embellish the strawberry a little bit, I'm just going to go in and just put some little white dots to represent the seeds. And then this little mason jar craft is all finished. For this easy Dollar Tree DIY, you're going to start with one of their little signs and go ahead and break it down. Then I painted the frame of the sign black. Once that was done, I took my roll of painter's tape and I ripped off the little, I guess the cardboard thing that says it's painter's tape, and I used that as a template to cut a green circle. Then I took the painter's tape and traced the inside circle for the red, and I stuck them on top of each other, centering them, and then cut them in half, and that gave me 2 watermelon slices. Once that was done, I just used some of the Surebonder fabric glue to glue the 2 pieces of felt together, and then I was ready to go ahead and attach them into my sign. I just used the back of the sign and I went ahead and glued these down, and then taking some of the black colored Surebonder hot glue, I made little seeds. Now yes, they do look like little tiny ants and there are little strings, but they trim off really easy and just give it kind of that 3D element that I think makes it look just right. And there you go, 20 DIYs that I hope will give you some inspiration to make your own summer DIYs. Let me know down below which one of these was your favorite. Also let me know about that picture DIY. What combination would you make for that? Thank you so much for watching, guys. I really appreciate it. Here are some more videos you might enjoy, and I will see you in the next one. Bye!